So, with York 2 underway, it's time for my usual video where I talk about my wish list and the kit I want to see from this upcoming ship. So, we do have the prior version, Yorktown 1, somewhere in here. Right, so Yorktown 2 is going to be very, very interesting because there's a lot of things they can do with it, and having the prior version, York 1, is going to throw me off. So the thing is, York 1 was a very special ship. She was a really good 1-1 farming ship back in the day because she cost 12 oil, and she has the skill called Vengeance, which is like a zombie skill that you see from Cassin Downs and Phoenix, where if the health goes below a certain amount of percentage, she gets a heal, and she does extra damage. Then you have Fleet Carry, which is a buff for Vanguards. Now, it's not the best buff out there, but definitely is a pretty good buff back then for at least farming ships or whatever. So 15% damage for 8 seconds is pretty solid. So now it's not my personal wish list, but this is something I want to see, or this is probably what I'm expecting. In terms of, okay, let's talk about stuff I want first. So obviously, this is copium, like this is actual copium. I want her to be an actual damaging carrier. I want to see 2 red skills, 1 yellow skill, and I wanted to see her do a decent amount of damage. Now, I'm not expecting her to be a massive damage, but at least a decent amount of damage to keep her a UR tier ship. It's something that's going to be pretty good in a lot of scenarios and not just a specific niche content or whatever. I want to see her good in many contents, just like any other UR ship would be, right? So I want 2 red skills, 1 yellow skill, self buffs, good airstrike damage. I'm also expecting her to have a skill where if she has a BTD equipped, she's going to get some kind of buff right here. So I don't want a plus 13 a BTD destroyer. Pretty much have to, maybe, unless they add more gear or whatever, but I'm expecting her to have some kind of skill where if she has a BTD destroyer equipped, she's going to get some kind of benefits out of it. Or maybe just the Eagle Union dive bomber would probably suffice as well too. They can use hell divers and that could work, but probably BTD those, but who knows. Anyways though, I'm expecting her to be some kind of a mixed carrier, some kind of buff, has BTD destroyers equipped. Some nice damaging stuff though. Maybe even a team buff, but I'm not expecting her to have some kind of team buff. Cross barrage definitely is going to be there, and so forth. Now, that's what I want. Now, what I'm expecting her kit to be, because she is a pretty mixed bag ship right now in terms of what her potential could be when it comes out. What I see from her is that she's going to be probably used for Eagle Union faction, where you want to pair her up with like Enterprise, New Jersey, ships like those to get maximum value out of her kit. So that's what I'm expecting. Also, if she does buff ships, I'm pretty sure she's going to buff Vanguards, just like her original form. Now, I know they're both 2 different ships, I know, but something tells me that something about York 2 is going to have some kind of buff, but for Vanguards, not your backline. So that's going to be a weird position because there's not that many significant damage dealers when it comes to Vanguard ships. On top of my head, KimoCheese and Plymouth are probably the 2 best consistent damage dealers for Vanguards, and that's pretty much it. You have some other ones that are pretty good, but like nowhere near as good as those 2. So it's kind of like, whatever. And especially the fact that if she does have an Eagle Union faction buff, then Plymouth is Royal Navy and KimoCheese is IJN, so that doesn't really work out. So that's probably going to happen. I'm also expecting her to be some kind of like mixed utility, not all out damage. I can definitely see her being a more supportive ship rather than a damaging ship. But the thing is, it's not just going to be a Vanguard scenario where you just toss in Vanguard to a battleship setup and have it just work out universally. I think for her, she's going to be probably strictly used for Eagle Union setups. And that's kind of what I want to avoid, but I can definitely see that happening. I don't want it to happen though, but I can definitely see that happening. And Probably the same usual fighter, dive bomber, and torpedo bomber slot. I don't think that's going to change. Maybe they'll have her um, have torpedo bomber, something like changeable. I know Eco Unions are very known for their dive bombers and fighters, I think. Maybe fighters. I think dive bombers though, but um I hope they let the dive bomber slot be fixable, but probably gonna be torpedo bomber slot though, but hey, it is what it is. So I'm actually very like in the dark when it comes to York too, because I don't know what direction they're gonna go. Like Musashi was, I was very confident in Musashi being an all-out attacker, and I was correct about that. She's really good at that scenario. But York 2 is different. York 2, I feel like she could be either a damager or a buffer, or even a support utility. By God, by all means, I don't want her to be another zombie ship, because we don't need a UR zombie. Because zombies back then were used for cheap farming, and cheap farming nowadays is pretty much dead with the oil cap introduction. It's kind of like whatever, unless you want to do like min-max farming for whatever item drop you need. So I don't know exactly which way they're gonna go. I'm hoping they go the more offensive and utility route more than defensive route. Because nowadays defensive ships are like kind of, yeah, like whatever. The only defense I can think of that like that's good is like either Musashi, who can tank for the whole team, not the whole team, like the back line, or some kind of like crazy healer like Unicorn or Perseus. Those are what I see for defensive ships. Otherwise, for the most part, those either utility or just damage. So hoping for 2 red skills and 1 yellow skill though. Probably gonna see 1 yellow, 1 blue, and 1 red. But I hope the blue skill though is pretty good, and I hope they go the more offensive route. But if they do utility, that's fine too. Just I hope it's not as restrictive to Eagle Union. It has some kind of universal kit to it, and I really hope that if they do add some kind of like gimmicky stuff to her that requires her to have like a BTD destroyer or whatever, that she gets compensated very well for it. Because even if she does get like a nice buff for BTDs, 10 Rise are just a really, really good dive bomber to have compared to having a BTD destroyer. So that's my wish list for York 2 and what I expect to see from York 2. Definitely going to be a mysterious ship for her kit this time around. I have literally no confidence in what her skill is going to be. I just hope that when I see her skills, I'm going to be very surprised, and it's going to be a surprise in a positive factor. But hey, I'm all opened and willing to accept any kind of unique changes, maybe meta gameplay or whatever to the game. Definitely am looking forward to seeing what she brings to the table, because as of right now, we have 2 UR carriers, and adding 1 more to the table, which is York 2, is definitely going to make the carrier gameplay a lot more interesting by all